psychology of the sport is something that is very fascinating. And it's the same as any business. It's the same as why the stock market moves, right? Yeah, you got a good product and you got some good management. You think your expenditures are going to exceed your profits. And all. Look, man, it all comes down to the psychology of the buyer. Can you motivate them or can't you? I see companies out there that got inflated prices all the time that can't even turn a profit, that are operating off of nothing but borrowed money, and their shares are going up because they can continue to inspire the imagination of the consumer. It's a very interesting thing in the fight business. There are some pieces that must be there if you want to have a big fight. Two talented guys, any kind of a personal grudge. If it can be nationality, culturally inspired, which comes along very rarely, but if you can do that, if you can have a parody you haven't seen, there's a number of things that are easy. They're guaranteed, they're successes, and they're easy. If you can have a good guy and a bad guy, just like any film or any other form of entertainment, the white hat versus the black hat. It's simple, it's easy, and it's understood. It's also a recipe for success. There are other times where you don't know. And the one thing about this business is 2 plus 2 never equals 4. You can bring an athlete in, a guy or a gal, and it checks all the boxes you're looking for. From talented to youthful to well-spoken, to handsome to charismatic to beautiful, whatever it could be, right? Go right down the list. And for some reason, they're a dud. It just doesn't work. You will have other guys who have empty boxes. Where of the 10 boxes that, hey, this is what I've got to have and I can make that person a star, they get 4 and they got 6 sitting empty and they go on to light the world on fire. And you learn something, and there's always something out of the box, but it's just 2 plus 2 never equals 4. There's just not a straight line recipe that you can follow. There's just good ideas. I will offer you that backstory because I'm feeling that way with Eddie Alvarez right now today. Eddie Alvarez just got beat convincingly. Nobody beats Eddie Alvarez. Nobody beats Eddie Alvarez convincingly. For some reason, his stock went up with me. For some reason, I'm trying to identify what it is. I'd be curious if you guys agree with me, but I am now more interested than ever in Eddie's next fight. I would like to know if you guys agree. And I don't know why it is. I don't know if it's because I want to say, hey, did Eddie just fall off the cliff? Is it all over? Was the change to the new promotion the wrong change? Was the weight class and some of the ramifications and some of the way that they do things from an organizational standpoint the wrong way to do things for Eddie Alvarez? Is that what this is? Or is Eddie going to come back with a vengeance like he has every time in the past? Did Eddie just need one to shake off? Now, remind you, he did that in the UFC. He came over from Bellator. He came into the UFC. He stumbled in his very first fight. And he was a top 5 ranked fighter in the world. Don't forget, he came back from stumbling in that fight to capturing a world championship. And this is a guy who has shown it before. Is that what it is? Am I just so curious as to whether it's the comeback story or something the other way? I don't know. But there was something about that fight and seeing the vulnerability in a guy who is nearly invincible, nearly bulletproof over a very long career. You know, Eddie also never gets recognized for that. Eddie really had the hard way to the top, and I know about it because I was there with him. I also had the roundabout way to get into, the eye of the camera, if you will, before the media, before all of you guys. We traveled the roads. Bodog, Costa Rica, and Trenton, New Jersey, or somewhere in Pennsylvania, wherever the hell we were. Trenton, New Jersey, I had that right. But we did all of these things, and I get into the Ultimate Fighter. I'm coaching the Ultimate Fighter. Big opportunity at the time. I look, Eddie Alvarez is in the stands. He's over there just to watch the action. I'm looking at him going, Eddie, if I would have known you were going to be here, I'd have got a jersey for you and you'd be on the coaching. That's Eddie Alvarez. Come on. But he doesn't always get that credit. A lot of people don't realize how far he goes back. They don't realize how many times he's had to evolve, how many times he's had to reinvent himself, how many times he's had to pull himself up off the canvas. They don't always realize that. When I watch that fight, and I don't want to take anything away from the opponent, I will just share with you, I'm not overly familiar with who his opponent is to the point that I've seen the fight. And I couldn't produce the guy's name for you right now. I'm just not aware. That's on me, not on the opponent. But when I watch that fight, and I don't want you guys to get lost in this in case you did not see the fight. Eddie Alvarez lost a fight. Eddie Alvarez stopped. Eddie Alvarez in the first round. These are the headlines, and that is factually correct. But if you go watch the fight, Eddie Alvarez lost well less than 1 second of that fight. Well less than a second. A millisecond. One punch came in, went right into his eyeball. I mean, he's got an orbital. He's in the. It's a whole big thing. He said, and I quote, "I was blinded by that punch." And you saw it. You saw the fear. You saw what you saw him go. Whoa! I gotta get to a doctor. I don't have time to deal with you right now, opponent. I got some other thing I got to go do. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this one up. But in its entirety, he only lost a millisecond of that fight. 1 millisecond. Punch got right through. So keep your eye out for that. But I will tell you, for reasons that are unknown for me, Eddie Alvarez's stock went up. My interest in Eddie Alvarez has gone up because of the result of that match. I don't know that there's another time that I can recall that I've had that same reaction.